Good morning. SharenD here on my Distinguished Men's page, and I am so happy to be here with you this morning, 12 and a half hours late. You know, technical difficulties, sometimes you just have to throw in the towel and say, I'm going to bed. Can't control everything as hard as I try, but I'm here and I wanted to definitely come on and share this information with you guys because I had scheduled this originally and not took into consideration that I usually schedule everything for this group on Monday. And I didn't take into consideration that we had a holiday and it was scheduled first on Memorial Day. So I rescheduled it for the 12th. And my cable provider just wasn't having it. Maybe not the cable provider, maybe Facebook, somebody, but whatever technological issues, it was not going to happen. But I didn't want to just not do it because I think it is something very important to talk about. The question is, who wants to talk about hair loss? And the answer to that is nobody. Nobody wants to talk about hair loss, but it is something important to discuss. So let's talk about prevention. Let's talk about why hair loss is happening and the fact that it seems to have increased over the past 10, 15, maybe 20 years. So let me just start with what is it? Okay. The technical term for hair loss is called alopecia. And it doesn't only happen to men, it happens to women too, for a variety of reasons. You have hair loss that's technically or medically called, technically or medically called male pattern baldness. Now, that term right there would make you believe that that particular reason for hair loss would only affect men. However, I'm finding in the research that I've done that no, male pattern baldness actually can occur in women as well. Generally, that type of hair loss, male pattern baldness, is hereditary. So, those genes, what can you do? You got them. They're yours. That's the roll of the dice, so to speak. But there are some things to look at. First of all, let me tell you, my father started losing his hair in his early 20s. He was in the military and wore, of course, the what's called the baseball cap, the army caps, daily, every day. So he assumed that was the reason. However, he's from the generation, of course, where men, particularly African American men at that age, were doing what's called, I think the term was conking. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but basically it's putting chemicals in your hair to straighten your hair, to give your hair a more non-ethnic look. Okay. So that also could have played into it. We don't know. But his father, when he passed in his 80s, had a full head of hair. So, interestingly enough, in the research that I've done, male pattern baldness is hereditary, but the gene passes from mother to son. So just because your father did not have the baldness, male pattern baldness specifically, does not mean that you won't have it, because it comes from the line of the female. Blame the mothers. We always do, right? Moms get it for everything. So yeah, male pattern baldness is a hereditary gene that comes to the males from the mother's line. However, women also get male pattern baldness. It probably should never have been named male pattern baldness, but that's the name that was given, and it's technically not just exclusive to men. Women get it. And with my father, I could see where his mother also, you could see that she had some hair loss and so forth. And actually very typically with what the way he experienced it. My brother also started losing his hair at an early age. Now, there are many different reasons that we have hair loss for men and for women. Age, of course, environment, of course, the things that we do to our hair, such as chemicals and so on. Men in the last 10, 15 years, I would say, use more products on their hair than ever before in terms of how many men. Because what I'm finding in the research that I've done is that it's as high as 70% of men who are losing their hair. But what's so awesome in the time frame that we live in now is that, strong, handsome, self-assured men are everywhere with bald heads. That is now a fashion choice, irregardless of whether you're actually having hair loss or not. But for those of you who it's not a choice, but you kind of settled into that because, well, it's happening, so I might as well make the best of it and go with it. Here are some things you can consider. One is that in the area of prevention, there are some ways of stimulating the hair shafts to entice them, so to speak, to want to grow and be nourished. What happens is the hair follicles themselves shrink and then eventually just disappear. But if you're starting to see hair loss, you can do some things that will encourage those follicles to thicken, to expand, and to want to stay around longer. Okay. Anything on our body, anything needs to have stimulations to that area or it dies. It's just like a muscle. And we all know, the term of use it or lose it. So it's sort of the same concept. If you are stimulating the follicles, if you are giving it some love, you're giving it some nourishment, then you might be able to encourage the follicles to go ahead and expand and fill out and stay in its place. Okay. There are all kinds of makeshift ideas out there. I've read some things of mustard seeds and so forth. I mean, actually, the one thing that I saw that was the most beneficial really was a mixture of 3 different kinds of oils that together form a specific bond chemically that made a lot of sense. But, you have all these products out there that are on the market specifically that say that they grow hair and this, that, and the other. And some of them do work for specific type of hair loss. So that's the key, is understanding what your hair loss is about. Is it hormonal? Is it genes? Is it mistreatment of your skin and hair over a period of time. I think actually I'm going to turn my light down a little bit. Yeah, that's a little better. A little better. So, what's the reason for your hair loss is the first step. Now, there's many ways of finding that out. Again, if it is hereditary, you'll see that. You'll see that within the family. You can kind of say, okay, and not just checking on your dad, but check on your mom's side as well, because as I said, specifically male pattern baldness is passed on to the sons from the mother's line. But male pattern baldness is not the only reason you have hair loss. It can be chemically induced, like if you have used a lot of chemicals on your hair and used them inappropriately. Even oils and shampoos and conditioners that you think are, beneficial, they can actually be not conducive to your skin type, and clogging the pores of your scalp and preventing air and blood flow and so forth to be able to get through and nourish them. I would suggest the first thing you want to do is, if you are seeing that not only that you're losing your hair, but that the hairs themselves are becoming thinner, I would suggest the first thing you do is to get on hair vitamins. These are vitamins that are particularly high in B vitamins. They give your hair a certain kind of amino acids and nutrients that they need to strengthen them, to help them grow plumper and fuller, and to increase the cortex of the hair shafts themselves. That's a very easy step to take to get on hair vitamins. You can go to a beauty supply and get them. You can go to Rite Aid and get them. They're everywhere. But you want to specifically look for ones that have botany. I think botany is that B6? Might be B6 or it might be B4, but either way, it would be botin. It's BOTIN that you want to look for. You want that to be in there, and thiamine, which I know is B1. So you want to start taking them, knowing that a good vitamin regimen, it's going to take you a good 3 to 4 months of consistent use before you're going to see any benefit of it, before your body actually gets a reserve and stockpiles it and has enough to actually bring forth any benefits. In the meantime, you also want to stimulate the scalp. Let me see if I have one of them. It's basically a little bitty one that you see that is used with mascara. It's called a spoolie. I usually have one just sitting around here. That's kind of crazy. Why are my spoolies not in sight now? But anyway, it looks like the wands that they use to put mascara on. They're little bitty tiny brushes, and you're just gonna when you're sitting around, just scratching it. That's all. And the purpose is just to bring more blood flow to the area. Okay. That is the most simplest, easiest thing to do. Vitamins and stimulation. If you also are concerned, you can go to a doctor. You would want to start with a dermatologist. That's who would specialize in the area of hair loss, to be able to determine for you what the nature of your hair loss is. Again, as I said, genes, chemicals, environmental factors, Hormones, hormonal imbalances can be a major reason for hair loss for not only men, but for women as well. So, this topic, even though technically there are certain types of hair loss that they treat very differently for men as they do for women. But you still have to kind of determine what the reason behind the hair loss is. So if you are inclined to, and it's of importance to you, then I would suggest going to a doctor, going to a dermatologist specifically to determine what is the nature of the hair loss and how you can combat it. Now, I have found some little things that I think would be interesting for you to know about if you're interested. I'm not going to just put it out there for everybody because everybody's not going to use it. So if you are interested, you can, let me put my email up here. You can send me an email and just tell me, I want just put hair loss prevention info. Okay, just email it, say hair loss prevention info, then my assistant will get that right out to you. It's about 15 different items that you can go through to be able to try some things to target that. Now, I'm going to tell you one of those things that I personally have noticed is this. As I said, for the last probably 10, 15, 20 years, men have started to use more kinds of products on their hair. And in that same time frame, we've seen male hair loss increase by 20%. Also, in that same time frame, we've seen more men than ever boycotting the barbershop. Why? Not so much because, well, like in the 70s where everybody was wearing their hair long, it's because more men have started to cut their own hair. And this is something I personally noticed from just watching the men in my family and men that I know that cut their own hair, is that there is a distinctive way that their hair loss starts. And let me tell you how I picked up on this, is that two specific men in my life cut their hair. And they're not biologically related, but I know both of them cut their own hair. One of them's left-handed, one of them's right-handed. But their hair loss is in the same spot, just on the opposite side. That's interesting. So when I talked to a couple of barbers about this, and they said, yeah, because the way you're cutting it when you do it yourself is the leverage in your hand and the pressure is off balance. So you have sort of a area that you're actually digging into harder because of the angle that you have to put your hand in to cut. And it makes a lot of sense that that's possibly what's happening. So think about that. If you are cutting your own hair, maybe try either go ahead and investing in that barber or teaching someone to cut your hair for you, a cousin or somebody, and you trade off, you cut his hair, he cuts your hair, whatever, because the leverage of doing it yourself could be causing the hair loss. Now that's a freebie. The rest of the tactics that I have come up with, there are a lot of them. I said it's about 15 or so that I would love to share with you. So just go ahead and email your Jaffer Lady at gmail.com, and my assistant will get that right out to you. So, who wants to talk about hair loss? Nobody. Why? Because it is a sensitive issue. It affects our self-esteem, how we look at ourselves, how we perceive other people looking at us. And that is something that is a real issue for women and for men. The bigger problem is that for men, it's not as easy to just talk about that I feel a little self-conscious because I'm losing my hair and I'm 30 years old. But it's there. It's just rolling around and munching on the inside. So the best thing to do is to address it. And yeah, just like women, men have things that affect their self-image. That's what it is. Self-image. Self-image plays a major part in so many things. Depression and even your socialization. Oh, I don't want to go hang out, and I don't want to go to the class reunion because I don't look the way I wanted to look when I was, when I go there. Oh, I need to lose another 30 pounds before the 25-year reunion, before the 10-year reunion, or whatever. Oh, I don't have the job that I wanted to have, or I'm not married yet, I don't have kids, whatever. That self-image impacts us, and then we allow it to go forth and just impact our daily lives. So if you want to talk about that further, please hit me up. We can do that because that's what I'm about. That's what on my other pages is called lipstick therapy. But what it's about is feeling good about you, what you portray to the world, what you think about what you portray to the world, and what you need in terms of your value. Because when we don't, it can become dark. It can become dark and manifest in ways that we just don't need to do. So that's why I'm here. That's why I wanted to bring up this topic, especially right now. Here it is, a few days before Father's Day. Your day, whether you are a daddy, whether you want to be a daddy, whether you're a grandpa, an uncle, a neighbor who just lends the hand in rearing and being there for young people, whether you brought them in the world or someone else did. You need to applaud yourself and give yourself the acknowledgement, and know that your place is special, that who you are and what impact you make on other people matter. And even if you don't see it yourself, you've done good. And because of that, I actually want to dedicate this particular broadcast to a gentleman who was that and so much more to my kids, Richard Moran, lovingly known as Pappy, because he was the guy that showed up when the tire was flat and the pilot light went out on the heat, or just so many things that would happen. And the first thing was, where's Pappy? And so I want to just give him that honor where honor is due, because guess what? Everybody has one. Everybody has that guy that shows up when you need it. Doesn't have to. That's who he is. And so that's why I have this page, because I have so many men in my life that are awesome people, that are awesome men who give so much to their community, to their families, to their church, just they give. And it's awesome to be able to set aside a time to say that to them. So now, who wants to talk about hair loss? Nobody. Nobody wants to talk about hair loss. But if you want more information on hair prevention, if you want hair loss prevention, if you want information on skincare, if you want information on just how to take care of you in the very best way possible, your Jaffa Lady email is the one to use. Your Jaffa Lady at gmail.com. And if it's about prevention, hair loss prevention, just put that on there and my assistant will get that out to you. If it's something more in depth, or just you can put a little bit there to let me know to get back with you. If you're wanting to schedule a free skincare assessment to just determine what your skin needs, you can put that on their skincare assessment and we will schedule you, because we are here to provide you with quality and convenience for you distinguished men. Nate, sincere. So have a great week. Have an awesome Father's Day. Whether you are a daddy or not, you've probably made more of a difference in some child's life than you ever know. And we thank you. So you guys have a great day. And as always, I value you and I value your time. Thank you. Happy Father's Day.